여러분, 아이작 아시모브. Bell brought his teacher back the week before election. The air car dropped quickly in an obscure part of the city. We'll stay here till after election, Bell told him. It would be better to have you out of the way if things take a bad turn. The horse voice that twisted painfully out of John's crooked mouth might have had accent of caution in it. There's a danger of violence. The fundamentalist threaten, so I suppose there is, in a theoretical sense, but I really don't expect. The pundits have no real power. The pundits have no real power. They are just continuous irritant factor that might stir up a riot after a while. You don't mind staying here? Please, I want myself. If I have to worry about you. Oh, I'll stay. You still think it'll go well? I'm sure I will. No one bothered you at the place. No one. I'm certain. And your part went well? Well enough. There'll be no trouble there. Take care of yourself and watch the television tomorrow, John. Barely pressed gnarled hand that rested on his. Lantern's forehead was a furrowed study in suspense. He had a completely unenviable job of being Ballet's campaign manager in a campaign that wasn't a campaign, for a person that refused to reveal his strategy and refused to accept his managers. You can't. It was his favorite phrase. It had become his omni phrase. I'll tell you, Steve, you can't. He threw himself in front of the prosecutor, who was spending his time leafing through the typed pages of his speech. Put that down, Steve. Look, the mob has been organized by the pundit. You want to get a hearing? You will be stoned more likely. Why do you have to make a speech before an audience? What's wrong with the recording? A visual recording? You want me to win the election, don't you? Asked Bailey mildly. Win the election? You are not going to win, Steve. I'm trying to save your life. Oh, I'm not in danger. He's not in danger. He's not in danger. Letton made a squeal, rasping sound in his throat. You mean you are getting out on that balcony in front of 50,000 crazy crackpot and try to talk sense to them on a balcony like a medieval dictator? Bailey consulted his watch. In about 5 minutes, as soon as the television lines are free. Renton's answering remark was not quite transliterated. The crowd-filled, roped-off area of the city, trees and houses seemed to grow out of a mass human foundation, and by ultra-wave, the rest of the world watched. It was a purely local election, but it had a world audience just the same. Barely threw over that and smiled, but there was nothing to smile at in the crowd itself. There are banners and streamers leaning every possible change on his supposed robot. The hostile attitude rose sickly and tangibly into the automobile. From the start, the speech was not successful. competed against the incolate mob howl and the rhythmic cries of the Pondy clock that formed mob islands within the mob. Barry spoke on slowly, unemotionally. Inside, the lantern clutched his hair and groaned, and waited for the blood. There was a writhing in the front ranks, and the angular citizen was popping eyes and close too short for the length of his limb, was pulling to the fore. A policeman dived after him, making slow, struggling passes, barely waved the ladder up angrily. The thin man was directly under the balcony, his words tore unheard against the wall. Barely leaned forward. What do you say? If you have a legitimate question, I'll answer it. He turned to a flanking guard. But that man up here. Bring that man up here. There was a tensing in the crowd. Cries of quiet started in the various parts of the mob and rose to a bedlam. Then turned down raggedly. The thin man, red-faced and panting, faced Belly. Belly said, "Have you a question?" The thin man started and said in a cracked voice, "Hit me." With sudden energy, he thrust out his chin at an angle. "Hit me." "You say you are not a robot? Prove it." "You can't hit a human, you monster." There was a queer, flat, dead silence. Belly's voice punctured. "I have no reason to hit you." The thin man was laughing wildly. "You can't hit me. You want to hit me. You are not a human. You are a monster, a make-believe man." And Stephen Bailey, tight-lipped, in the face of thousands who watched in person and the millions who watched by screen, drew back his fist and caught the man crackingly up on the chin. The challenger went over backward in sudden collapse. With nothing on his face but blank surprise, Belly said, "I'm sorry, take him in and see that he's comfortable. I want to speak to him when I'm through." And when Dr. Kelvin, from her reserved space, turned his automobile and drove off, only one reporter had recovered sufficiently from the shock of race after her, and shouted an unheard question. St. Kelvin called over her shoulder, "He's human." That was enough. The reporter received away in his own direction. The rest of the speech might be described as spoken, but not heard. Dr. Kelvin and Stephen Bailey met once again a week before he took the oath of office as mayor. It was late, past midnight. Mr. Kelvin said, "You don't look tired." The mayor-elect smiled. "I may stay up for a while." "Don't tell Queen." "I shan't, but that was an interesting story of Queen's, since you mentioned it. It's a shame to have spoiled it. I suppose you knew his theory, parts of it." "It was highly dramatic, Stephen. Bailey was a young lawyer, a powerful speaker, a great idealist, and with a certain flair of biophysics. Are you interested in robotics, Mr. Bailey?" "Only in the legal aspect." This Stefan Bailey was. But there was an accident. Bailey's wife died. He himself was. His legs were gone, his face was gone, his voice was gone, part of his mind was bent. He would not submit to plastic surgery. He retired from the world, legal career gone, only his intelligence and his hands left. Somehow, he could obtain positronic brain, even a complex one which had the greatest capacity of forming judgment in ethical problem, which is the highest robotic function so far developed. He grew a body about, trained to do everything he would have been, was no longer. He sent it out into the world, the Stephen Bailey, remaining behind himself as the world crippled teacher that no one ever saw. Unfortunately, said the mayor-elect, I ruined the world by hitting me. The paper said it was your official verdict on the occasion that I was human. How did it happen? Did you mind telling me? It couldn't have been accidental. It wasn't entirely. Quinn did most of the work. My man started quietly spreading the fact that I had never hit a man, that I was unable to hit a man, that to fail to do so under provocation would be sure proof that I was a robot. So I arranged for a silly speech in public with all sorts of publicity overtones, and almost inevitably, some full tales for it. In its essence, it was what I called the sister tree, one in which the artificial atmosphere which has been created does all the work. Of course, the emotional effects made my election certain, as intended. The robot psychologist nodded. I see you intrude on my field, as every politician must, I suppose, but I am very sorry it turned out this way. I like robots. I like them considerably better than I do human beings. If a robot can be created capable of being a civil executive, I think he'd make the best one possible. By the law of the robotics, he'd be the incapable of harming humans, incapable of tyranny, of corruption, of stupidity, of prejudice, and after he had served a decent term, he would live even though he were immortal. Because it would be impossible for him to hurt humans by letting them know the robot had ruled them. It would be most ideal. Except that a robot might fail due to the inherent inadequacy of his brain. The positronic brain has never equaled the complexity of the human brain. He would have advisors. Not even a human brain is capable of governing without assistance. Barely considered Susan Kelvin was grave interest. Why do you smile, Dr. Kelvin? I smile because Dr. Quinn didn't think of everything. You mean there could be more to that story of his? Only a little. For the 3 months before election, did Stephen Bailey that Mr. Quinn spoke about, this broken man, was the country for some mysterious reason. He returned in time for the famous speech of yours, and after all, what the world cripple did once, he could do a second time, particularly where the second job is very simple in comparison to the first. I don't quite understand. Dr. Kelvin rose and smoothed her dress. She was obviously ready to leave. I mean, there is one time a robot may strike a human being without breaking the first law, just one time. And when is that? Dr. Kelvin was at the door. He said quietly, when the human to be struck is merely another robot. She smiled broadly, her thin face glowing. Goodbye, Dr. Bailey. I hope to vote for you 5 years from now for coordinate. Stephen Bailey chuckled. I must reply that is a somewhat far-fetched idea. The door closed behind her. I started that with a sort of horror. Is that true? What of it? She said. And the great Bailey was simply a robot. Oh, there's no way of ever finding out. I think he was. But when he decided to die, he had him simply automized. So there is never be any legal proof. Besides, what difference would it make? Well, you set a prejudice against robot, which is quite unreasonable. He was a very good mayor. 5 years later, he did become regional coordinator, and when the regions of us formed their federation in 2044, he became the first world coordinator. By the time it was the machines that were running the world anyway. Yes, but no, but the machines are robots and they are running the world. It was 5 years ago that I find out world truth. It was 2052. Bailey was completing his second term as world coordinator.